But to the bigger point, though, I think that's what allows Xbox maybe to get a little bit more love, is that they do that well, and they're working the room. Phil Spencer is not your friend. Sarah Bond is not your friend. As I certainly think that contributes, not as much as the generational thing I was talking about, but certainly they're better at it, and it seems to work. So why not keep doing it? I mean, what do you think about that, Maddie? I mean, do you agree that maybe isn't the best for your brand, or do you think it brings value when you guys are out there doing that kind of stuff?
No, I actually appreciate you said that. I love talking about this type of stuff. I think there's a fair argument to both sides, not to fence ride for a moment here, but just more so to say that I think it's fair if people look at, like, I'm trying to think, in my defense, I'm trying to think of a picture of me with an Xbox exec. I don't know if I have.
No, I'm thinking of the one recently.
With Redfall bet?
No. What's his name? He's on Iron Words. I love him.
Cog.
Yes. He did one with Sarah Bond recently.
Oh, okay.
But there were many. It wasn't just him.
Listen, I'd be a little bit remiss to call this out. And look, I'm from Australia. The culture is different over here. Things are slightly different, but I find it really weird that Cog's been pointed out twice in this whole thing. And then he's gone and pointed out Cog and Sarah Bond. And realistically, he didn't have to point out anyone in particular at all.
You know what, guys? I really don't like making these kind of videos, but the condescension and pomposity that's coming from David Jaffe needs to be called out, and if not necessarily called out, but it needs to be talked about. You know, I don't want to say, I chose the wrong word, not call, because at this point I can't call him out because there have been other people who have already spoken on the subject. And plus, I'm not really big enough as far as a channel to call anybody out. But the condescension of this man is unbelievable. It is at epic levels. The idea that you think that you need to tell Lord Cognito, because that's the name he kept bringing up. Now, there are a lot of other people in the picture. Two names he kept bringing up, Lord Cognito and Sarah Bond, but we'll stick with Lord Cognito. The idea that you think you need to tell this man that he should remember that people at Xbox, as far as the company, the executives, aren't his friends, is just astounding. I mean, I don't know what makes you think that you need to tell him that. Now, are there gullible people in this world? Of course there are. But usually it's a good idea to let people prove to you that they're that gullible before you just assume that they're gullible. Lord Cognito has never said anything to me, well, not to me, but when I'm listening to his podcast, he just doesn't seem to carry himself like someone who's gullible. He seems like a very intelligent person. And to be perfectly honest with you, you know, if he's going around here talking about people who are being cordial to other people, and because they're being cordial to those people, he needs to tell them that those people aren't their friends. Well, I've often thought that Lord Cognito was too nice to David Jaffe when he was on their podcast. I really felt like he let a few moronic things and things that Jaffe was saying that kind of conflicted with other things that he said in the past. You know, I think that I often thought to myself, wow, you know, Cog, you kind of letting this guy get by, you know, without, you know, Cognito has this way about him. He has this I have to give it to him, he has this way of bringing you to the carpet in this very nice and professional way. And I understand that he wants to keep a good relationship with people so that they'll feel comfortable coming back to the show. You know, I'm not totally brain dead here. I understand that. But I think that because he has the skills to artfully call people to the carpet, I just think sometimes when David Jaffe is on his podcast, on the Lord's podcast, I think that he lets David Jaffe get away with too much. But let me get back to the subject at hand, which is, you know, I don't care about that really. I don't even know why I went on a rant about that for too long. But anyway, the idea that this man thinks that he has to tell Lord Cognito something so simple, something that any person with common sense or experience in life would know. Let me give you an example. In my industry, I'll just use like where I'm at right now, and it's just an example. It's been this way everywhere I've been. You know, of course, I've had some a-hole supervisors and managers, of course, but I've also had some good ones. And over the last, I don't know, I guess last 15 years or so, I've been fortunate enough to have good managers above me, right? both have, the one that I have now, to keep it clean, I'll just speak on the one that I have now. He has an open door policy. Real great guy. Seemed like if, he could possibly be a good friend. Seems like a really, he's really smooth, got a lot of swag. Great manager, man. Great communicator. And that open door policy is 100% ironclad, man. You can walk in this guy's office anytime. This guy has like little snacks on his desk. You could walk in there while you're talking to him, grab a snack or whatever. He's willing to talk about anything. We have outings. We have picnics, company picnics. We go to baseball games. All of this company sponsored. We go to football games, company sponsored. This supervisor or manager, he's a manager, and some of the supervisors, they come up, hey man, you look like you're getting low on your beer right there. You need another beer? They'll open another beer for you. Because they have the cookouts before these events, before the game, before the baseball or football game. They meet there about 3-4 hours before the game, and I think they get there a little earlier, but that's when I usually show up. And they cook out, man. They have some really good, have steak, ribs, whatever. All the beer you can drink. Sometimes they even have a little wine. And they come up, hey, hey man, your beer's getting low. What's up, man? How's everything going? And how's the family? Oh, that's your wife? Oh man, look at your son, man. He's a handsome. Look at you, handsome guy. I bet you got all the girls right. You're just laughing it up, chopping it up a little bit, right? But I know that we are not friends. There's a difference between someone that you're being cordial with than someone that you're friends with. And most intelligent people know this. So the fact that David Jaffe is sitting here talking to Lord Cognito in that manner, you're basically saying two things. You're saying that he's highly susceptible to being a sellout, and you're saying, or because if he's a sellout, it's not necessarily that he's stupid, it's that he's calculating. Or you're saying he won't sell out, but he's gullible. He's too nice. Could that be because he was too nice to you, in my opinion, when you came on his podcast? I think there were a couple of times when he should have used his artful skills of interviewing to pull you onto the carpet a little bit more. I'm not saying that he should have been rude. Like I said, I understand you want to keep a good relationship with people when you have a podcast because you want them to feel comfortable coming back to your show. I saw Lord Cognito walk that tightrope when he had Colin Moriarty and Gaz on. Those two don't get along. That was when the Lords had this huge fight. They had like so many people on, had a lot of people. It was a big podcast event. And he basically had to play referee between Colin Moriarty and Jazz because Colin didn't want none of Jazz. Jazz wanted some of Colin, but Colin wanted to make sure that he was able to avoid Gaz. Did I just call Gaz Jazz? Anyway, if I did, forgive me, you know what I'm talking about. But man, I just wanted to say this, man. The main topic here that I want to focus on is David Jaffe and this idea that he thinks Lord Cognito doesn't know that the people at Xbox Microsoft aren't his friends. Friends is very deep. Friends is like I could meet any of those people at Xbox and they could buy me a beer, I could buy them a beer and whatever. That doesn't make us friends. Friends is somebody that you would invite to your house for Christmas dinner, or they might end up calling you, inviting you to their house for Christmas dinner. That's a friend. A friend is somebody when you're in need, you're really in need. Let's say you have a financial emergency and you need a couple of $1,000. You just fell up on hard times, man. Something just hit you and your family real hard. You took a real punch in the gut, and now you need some people to really step to the table and, help you out. When I'm talking about help, I'm talking about, man, you need thousands of dollars. So you need to, call your friends. And let's be honest on this, when it comes to friends. In this life, if you don't already know this, I'm going to tell you right now, you are actually going to meet very few people who qualify to be a real friend to you. That's just the truth. The word friend is serious. And yes, people throw it around a little too much, like David Jaffe is. When people become friends, there's something that makes them bond. It's more than just sitting down at a table, eating some food, chopping it up and laughing and talking about games. And even if you throw some alcohol in there, it's more than that. It's much deeper than that. And for this man to assume that Lord Cognito doesn't already know that, to me, is really condescending. And I'll tell you something else that's an issue here is pettiness. These people don't want Xbox to outshine PlayStation in even the most minute way. Not at all. They're so afraid that this way of dealing with their customer base might actually be a boon for Xbox, that it might be looked upon in some business article or something like that as something that's a good thing. When the truth of the matter is that, yes, to someone's opinion, that might be a good thing. They might say, oh, that's really nice, and how they get out and they chat with the customers about the products and all of that, and they talk to these different YouTube influencers, and they don't shy away from them, and that's a good thing. And the reason why they don't want anyone to notice that as anything good is because they know that that's not PlayStation's way of doing things. Now, PlayStation isn't wrong for the way they do things. I don't like a lot of their policies, especially like return policies and things of that nature, and the way they kind of give the customer base the cold shoulder over certain issues unless they receive really immense pressure. That's the only time they kind of cave, but they're not known for caving, and neither is Nintendo, to be fair. But they're so afraid that might be seen as something that is good for Microsoft, good for Xbox. They might get some credit for that. And that's what they're afraid of. These people are so pathetically petty, it's ridiculous. Just use our imaginations for a minute. Let me show you how petty they are. There could be someone, like maybe a journalist or something, and for whatever reason, he ends up going to both PlayStation headquarters and Xbox headquarters. And while he's doing this, he may notice some amenity or something like that that's at Xbox headquarters that he might say to himself, or he might say in his article or in an interview, just kind of like a side conversation, that he was really impressed with. He's not really trying to make it a topic of conversation, like some huge conversation. He just so happens to mention it. And him and whoever he's talking to, they laugh about it. And he said, yeah, I thought that was really nice. There are people out here who would actually go online and turn that into something to argue about, because he gave Xbox credit for some amenity that they had at Xbox headquarters that PlayStation didn't have. Not that PlayStation headquarters wasn't nice. We know it probably is. I've never been there, but it probably is. But in fact, PlayStation headquarters is really close to my home, actually. But that's beside the point. But I would assure you that if his comments about that subject got any type of notoriety, there will be people on Twitter who will be attacking that person for daring to admire some amenity at Xbox headquarters. That's how petty these people are. I mean, you can take Valve, for example. When Valve came out, Valve is known as a company they do things a little bit differently than a lot of companies who are in a similar business. When it comes to their game return policies, you can return a game for just about anything, really, as long as you haven't played it that much. As long as they can look at the game and tell that you have, I forgot exactly what the time is. I think it's 2 hours or something like that. But as long as you haven't gone over that time, you can return the game. And that has been something that's worked out great for them. They also are known for being very in touch with the community. They have these forums where they actually interact with people online who are talking about different issues, whether it be games, game development, the Steam Deck, or whatever. That's the reason why Steam does so well. You take the Steam Deck. Do you know that some of these people at Valve were actually going around handing, when they were delivering these Steam Decks in person, they were actually going inside of people's homes, shaking their hands, meeting their families, talking it up a little bit. Probably even had some tea or some coffee while they were there. And I'm sure David Jaffe knows about that. He ain't complained about that. Bet he has no problem with it. But if Valve had an event, Valve would probably be, if the past is any indication of how they have related to their customers, if the customer base and Valve executives found themselves in the same arena, they probably would do the exact same thing. For God's sakes, they delivered the damn product to people's houses, the Steam Deck. When have you ever heard of anybody doing that? This is a chapter straight out of Bizarro World, trying to make something that is actually good, bad, just because they know PlayStation doesn't do business that way. And they feel like, well, if people view the way Microsoft or Xbox does it as good, they may actually see PlayStation as a bad company. Or they may view it like PlayStation is doing something wrong because they don't do it that way. Wrong answer. That's not how this works. There's nothing saying that PlayStation is a bad company or any company is a bad company because they don't decide to do things the way Valve does it or the way Xbox does it. You know, just to give you some tiny example, the liquor store that I go to, the liquor store that I patronize, there's one guy who rings the register. I believe he might have been in the military. He's very thorough, not a lot of small, chit chat, not a lot of smiles. In fact, I don't recall ever seeing him smile, but he's professional. And he hurry up, ring you up, get you out of there. But there's a lady, she's super friendly, chats to everybody in there while she's talking, she's working. She's not just sitting up there holding you up in the line while the person is standing behind you just looking at you two talk. That's not what I'm saying. But she's very, very friendly. There's nothing wrong with the way he does it. There's nothing wrong with the way she does it. They're both being professional. I mean, I have to be honest with you. Jaffe looks like a damn clown saying that Xbox is doing it the wrong way because they're trying to establish some sort of rapport with their customer base. Their business is gaming. They don't sell cars. They don't sell houses. They're not a real estate company. Well, that's probably a bad example because a real estate company should also at least pretend to establish some sort of rapport with their customer base. But you understand what I'm saying. Because of the business they're in, to sit there and pretend like the way that they're doing it is something odd or not quite, it's something that's not quite right with it, that's being very dishonest. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's being very dishonest. But if he wants to hold that opinion as far as business models and customer relation models or whatever, that's totally fine. He may run a company one day, and that might be the way he wants to run his company, and there would be absolutely nothing wrong with that. Zero. And like I said, there are gullible people in this world. I acknowledge that. Cog just doesn't seem to be one of them. Cog seems like the type of man who mostly people have that conversation with their children. Those people aren't your friends. You're trying to talk to people about how humanity is and how often people can disappoint you. When an adult is gullible, when they've reached adulthood and they're still gullible, usually the only thing that's going to change it is not a conversation from another adult, but some experience where they learn it finally for themselves and they see it. I've seen that. I've seen people make changes as adults. Some people learn it early on. Most people learn it early on. There's a big difference between some sort of an associate, whether you get along with that person or not, and a friend. You learn what a friend really is and what an associate is. They're completely different. Whether it's an associate through your social life or an associate that in business. Most people know the difference. I imagine that COD is the type of COG. I don't know why I keep calling this man COD. I think about Call of Duty or something, but anyway, sorry about that. But I imagine COG to be the type of man that would go home and talk to his kids like that. He seems like a man that has enough wisdom to pass that sort of knowledge on to his kids. So to hear David Jaffe speaking to him in that manner, to me, it's really just kind of infuriating, actually. It's very disrespectful. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut this video short. I've basically got my main message out there. You can chime in the comment section if you want to. I know some of you out there might actually like David Jaffe. That's totally cool. You can like somebody and they can still be out of pocket. And David Jaffe, he's out of pocket. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. He's out of pocket. He doesn't need to be going around telling grown-ass people, you need to watch these people. They're not your friends. Okay. I think the same could be said for you. You're not COG's friend. I doubt very seriously if you're COG's friend, even though you've been on this podcast. I don't think you guys are friends. And if you're friends, you're not really talking to him like he's a friend. I hope you're not friends with him, if that's the way you treat your friends and talk to your friends. So, but anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, that's a problem. You need to go ahead and take care of that. And hey, if you get some time, like the video. And if you really get a lot of time, if you're really generous, share the video. Okay, guys. All right, guys. Until next time, stay safe.